Hi, how y'all doing out there? Calm. Apparently, we're doing very calmly right now. Not enough sun. Okay, hi, my name's Niels. I was born and raised in Peastown. It's in Appleton. That's northern Knox County, the St. George River Valley. And I take a lot of pride in that. Peastown was founded by Revolutionary War veterans, men who were conscripted to fight for the idea of this country, the idea of freedom, and then found out the hard way afterwards that the government wasn't really going to give them that. And so they did what people always do when tyranny attempts to repress us. They resisted. If you don't do that, that's okay, but then you're a slave. It's a balance, you know. Either you're going to go one way and be a slave, or you're going to try to stand up and walk. Everybody makes their choices, no judgment. So, anyways, I think what we're at right now is a crossroads in Maine history. For 300 or 400 years, we've been trying to survive using traditional culture and heritage, using a value set that was based on the land here, and growing our own food, taking care of ourselves and our families and our communities, not really looking to outside influences for much assistance. And over the last 30 to 40 years, I would argue that American values have crept into this state, and that they've become much more influential than was ever necessary for us as a culture and as a people. And that's ended up making the state of Maine much weaker. 100 years ago, 93% of the food that was produced in, 100 years ago, approximately 95% of the food that was consumed in this state was made in this state. Now, 7% of the food that is consumed in this state is made in this state, grown here. Okay? What that means is we need people like Hannaford's and Shaw's, which incidentally you know are owned by the same company, right? Yeah. To bring that food in for us. Otherwise, we're screwed, right? That's what it is when you're basically sort of like, really have power, but you're hoping for it. So that's what happens if the food doesn't come anymore. And right, why does that matter? Because we did take care of ourselves as a state. That can happen again. It's not that complicated, but we have to prioritize the culture and the values that say that's important. We have to prioritize local control of food sourcing. We have to prioritize local control politically. And we have to finally, once and for all, acknowledge that to live as an American with an American way of looking at things is to live in fear. And that fear is not a sustainable way for us to raise our children. It's not a sustainable way for us to live. That fear will eventually hamstring you and put your arms behind your back and make you scared. And you probably sit at home and watch anything. Okay? And we've got to be able to let all that American fear, Mainers, do for Americans. What's important, Democrats, they're working for a state party that's working for a federal party. And that's really dangerous because it puts American values and American interests ahead of ours. And there's no reason for us to ever do that. That's a perpetuation of the mentality of America, which has said Maine is a resource colony, county. That's the problem with letting American values in and start to define our lives, is that we no longer actually can control our own destinies now. And as much as we want to complain about people who are attached to the federal government, look at businesses like Chinbro. You know, I mean, how does that company exist without federally subsidized projects, state subsidized projects? We have to acknowledge that businesses and people that suck off the government are depleting our resources in a fashion which is unacceptable. And Angus King, all of his buddies, his son's a wind developer, you know, all these people who are trying to steal more money from the federal government, that's totally reprehensible. It's against the cultural values that we have in Maine, which are don't steal, and not to trust politicians. They put to bed Daniel Shays' rebellion in Massachusetts in the 1700s in a matter of weeks. Ethan Allen, the Green Mountain Boys, got taken down once again in months. It took them 40 years to bring the people of Maine to heel. Okay, 40 years. In those 40 years, we developed a culture of resistance which still stands today. The heartbeat of that movement in this state. Read this book and you'll understand why we